We are back with another video. Welcome back, you guys. It's another episode. This is a preview for another matchup down the road. It is the Indianapolis Colts back at home finally, but they are run up against an interesting matchup, I would say. The interesting matchup is going to be the Miami Dolphins. So both teams are looking to try to find the direction of how the season is going to go towards the end. I am your host, Culture Shock. Welcome to the Blow Stable. But I'm not alone. I got my guy Landon with me. Landon, how we doing?
Man, I'm doing great today. Let me tell you. 70 degrees. The sun is out. I woke up this morning and I was just sitting there and I was thinking, waking up. Humans have been alive, right? For millions of years at this point. How lucky am I? And how lucky are we really? We get to exist in the same time as Chris Ballard in the Colts. Like just pure luck, baby. So yeah, life doesn't get any better, I'll tell you.
Yes, sir, man. So we are here. It's good to hear that. Happy Friday, by the way. Shout out to everyone that's tuning in. Happy
Oh yeah.
Friday. We got
Friday.
us a nice preview to talk to you guys about. It's going to be interesting. We could definitely hop into the topic of the situation, which is probably the most important one to talk about. It's going to be going towards the injury report. But to start off, we got to talk about our quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Looked like he's cleared to start this game, which is a huge boost to the offense. Now, this is no knock on Joe Flacco at all. His performance, I thought he's been playing great, but I think going into this game, you might see a different tempo, a different scheme, a different pace. Of course, it was very polished with Joe Flacco, but the tempo might get sped up a little bit, and you might see more of those explosive plays with Anthony Richardson coming back. But you got to be cautious as well. He is still returning from an injury, so you might see some limitations and things like that. You might see him slow his pace going into the game. But what's your thoughts on the Colts offense with Anthony Richardson coming back and how important that may be?
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's extremely important getting your starting quarterback back. I mean, you're talking about a guy that, this offense really, especially with him, up until he was went down with the injury, of course. They were top three in the league in explosive play rate, and that's including runs and passes. And a lot of the runs usually have to do with the way teams play him. So getting him back, even if Jonathan Taylor is already ruled out, um, it opens up the run game so much more than Joe Flacco does. So your those rushing lanes get a little bit better. The way the defense has to rush the quarterback in pass rushing situations gets a little bit different. Um, and really, now the whole field is opened up, right? I mean, like there's not a blade of grass on that field that guy can't, hit with a football, like throw a football. So you have to guard. We've seen it numerous times where these teams are, in quarters or deep coverage, and he outthrows the coverage. And so there's really not too many things that he can't bring this offense, with him getting healthy and getting back. So I posted that stat yesterday. I thought it was really interesting. Like if you look at EPA per drop, if you take away the drops from Anthony Richardson, he actually ranks right around with Patrick Mahomes, and he is like the 13th ranked quarterback in football in EPA per play if you take out the drops. So um, that to me, that's a guy that's getting it done, and just getting him back into this offense. It opens up the playbook, it opens up the offense, it opens up the running game specifically, and I'm excited to finally get to watch him play football again.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely excited to see him back as well. It's been a long time coming. I know a lot of Colts fans are, on the air seeing him return if it's going to be good or not. A lot of fans still want to see Joe Flacco, but hey, at the end of the day, Joe Flacco now has trade value in my eyes. But Richardson got to stay on the field, so hopefully he goes out there and balls out. It's going to be an interesting one, but he might be limited to some players not making it on the field because of this injury report that I'm going to go over with you guys now. So I have the injury report in front of me, and the players that are listed, I'm going to name now. So first, you got Josh Downs with the toe injury. He is questionable. Ryan Kelly looks like he's going to be available for this game. You got Chris Lamons. He's out with that ankle. Hurricane Dial's questionable with the hamstring. Michael Pittman Jr. is questionable with the back injury. but I'm pretty sure we all know he might be full on go. Trey Sermon looked like he's available. Brayton Smith is questionable. EJ Speed is questionable, which is a huge one. Jonathan Taylor is out, as Landon mentioned earlier. We got Anthony Richardson back to play. Alec Pierce is the one that dropped on the list earlier this week. Well, Thursday, I would say. And, full practice on Friday, and he's questionable, but he has a shoulder injury. And then we got Grover Stewart, who did not practice, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be out there. So there's a few guys on this list. That's, I would say majority of them are questionable, but seeing Alec Pierce on this list, I think it shocked a lot of people. He didn't practice on Thursday, full practice Friday, but he has that shoulder injury. No Jonathan Taylor again. So it looks like it's going to come down to Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson to carry the fort again. It should be interesting, but of course, with Anthony Richardson coming back, I think those lanes might open up a little bit more for those guys, and we could finally probably see Tyler Goodson hit the end zone this week. So out of this list, EJ Speed, being out with he's questionable with the knee injury. I think that's a huge question mark going into this week at the linebacker group. But it should be interesting to see how these guys play. But this offense with Anthony Richardson going up against the Miami defense, the Miami defense hasn't been great this year. The team in general has been a roller coaster, honestly. But Shane Steichen has to have a game plan for Richardson to try to get some success against this defense, right? Honestly, this defense hasn't been great. So this game could be pretty much almost a layup if Shane Steichen draws up the right game plan. I know we've seen in the recent weeks with Flacco how conservative they may be, but they started off aggressive in the opening drives. But with Richardson, that may change. Just give me a thought, Landon, of how you think the game plan should be against a team like the Miami defense that hasn't been perfect this season so far.
Yeah, well, it's definitely interesting seeing Miami go the direction that they've went this season. Their offense, which we'll get into, has completely kind of cratered. They can't maintain drives on offense, and then that's basically leading to their defense being on the field a lot. And so I think specifically, like, as long as Josh Downs is out there, Pierce, those guys on offense, hopefully you start seeing more sustained drives, a little bit, maybe more of an emphasis on running the football this week. And with Anthony Richardson now being back, and look, let's make no mistake, I know, like you were saying that, he might be limited or anything. That's the entire reason they set him out last week, was because they wanted to get him to 100%. So if they set him out last week and he's ready to go and he's ready to play, then there's no limitations. Like it's full go. You're 100%. That's was the whole thing last week. So he should be 100% healthy. He should be ready to go. Zero limitations. So I would expect to see, like I said, the run game more, specifically quarterback runs possibly being integrated now with Richardson being back. The run game in general, controlling the clock. I think Josh Downs really keeping this Miami offense on the field. And basically what you're doing is they're really aggressive to start the game. And then it's kind of like they tend to like lull the defense to sleep. And then they come alive with these big plays, notably to Alec Pierce and some of that, and they're able to hit those explosives. Where I think with Richardson, I think the explosives are really on the table the entire game. I think it's at any moment in time, you can see the top get taken off this defense, or you can see an explosive run. So I think really that's what you're counting on. You might not get the sustained drives and the check downs with Joe Flacco, where he's averaging, 5 yards per attempt and stuff like that, where he's just taking these really simple, easy reads. And, it's ended up being sustained drives, notably due to Josh Downs. So I think you might see a little bit more sustained drives than you did earlier in the season without Josh Downs, now that he's back. But I think at this point it opens up everything to where it's pretty much just bombs away. And that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to see a lot of shots called, a lot of explosive plays. I think the run game is going to be very important this week, and I think it's going to be very effective this week. So, yeah, that's my view on how, like, what we should expect to see how Shane Steichen attacks this defense.
Absolutely, absolutely. We could drop the greatest game plan known to mankind, but we aren't the coaches. So we're just giving out suggestions at the end of the day. You guys let us know your thoughts on what the game plan may be. in the comment section, or should be, or how you run it against this team like that. But a lot of these offensive weapons are still banged up, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can come out with, especially to open the drive. I just hope the opening drive is going to be beautiful as it was last week, and so
Well,
because
like, if you look at, like, not only just the scoring, but specifically, like, some of the charts and the EPA and stuff like that, they've actually been one of the better offenses, like, I'm talking about, like, top 5 offenses in football in the first quarter, and really in the first half of these games, like, they're really been getting off the fast starts this year, so, hopefully, and that's even with Anthony Richardson. I mean, the last time we saw him was the Pittsburgh game, right? And he just drove down the field like it was nothing on that first drive. He was carving them up. Um, and then even on the second drive before obviously he went down, um, I mean, it was pretty much 14-0 at that point. I mean, they were right there at the goal line before he went down. And even with Richardson, they're getting off to these fast starts. So I think that's crucial because if you get off to a fast start against this Miami team, and then basically you make it to where they have to throw the football to get back into the game, and with their quarterback situation right now, that's exactly what you want them to do.
I agree. Um, I agree perfectly. The momentum is definitely there. EPA stats, if you guys know it, is there. Um, Anthony Richardson coming back. Looking at this Dolphins injury report that I'm about to list, I feel like Mo Ali Cox could probably have himself another solid game. He's been balling out this year. I don't think he get enough credit as he should. But this can probably be another game for him to potentially go off. I did mention Tyler Goodson as well to probably have another explosive game. But just give me your thought of who could potentially have a nice one of those explosive games like Goodson did last week. And then give me your thoughts on the center situation with Ryan Kelly and Tam Bortolini.
Yeah, well, I mean, are we allowed to say Anthony Richardson? Or are we
Absolutely.
are we allowed? Okay, because that's who I'm gonna pick. I think this is like set up perfectly now to where like now he's 100% healthy. He's been trying to get back into the games, basically for 2 weeks now. Like he's been wanting to play. So he's got all that pent up energy and he's ready to go out and explode. And so I think where you haven't really seen that game from him yet, to where he just really just takes over. Um, I think this could be the game. This could be the game that I think Anthony Richardson really kind of like sets his mark of like, there's so many question marks about this guy. He's young and, we can get into the accuracy and all the stuff that really doesn't matter um, on the field. But when you look at the good stuff, which is really what you have to look at, you just ignore all the bad stuff. You got to look strictly at the good stuff. And he hasn't really had one of those performances this year where kind of like the Rams game last year in the second half of that Rams game where he just takes over the game. Like this could be the week that we see Anthony Richardson really put on a true performance. And then, moving forward, you're like, okay, like we see the vision, right? We see it's there. So that's going to be my pick. I think Richardson's going to explode this week. I actually moved him into the starting lineup of my fantasy league, specifically for this game. So if you got Anthony Richardson fantasy, I'll probably play him this week. I think it's going to be a fireworks show.
I like it, man. Shout out to the fantasy owners out there that's playing fantasy football. I am not one of those, but shout out to you. So for the Dolphins injury report, I'm going to go ahead and go down the list. So we got Teron Armstead, tackle. He's going to be look like he might be playing. He just rested. Calais Campbell look like he's available. Javon Holland is doubtful with a hand injury. Muhammad Kamara, he look like he's going to be available. David Long is questionable, and Emmanuel Ogba is questionable as well. That's three linebackers. Jordan Poyer, he has a shin injury. Look like he's going to play. Devon Achani, probably one of the best running backs out there. He's coming back from the concussion. Skylar Thompson, the quarterback with ribs, he's questionable. We got Kendall Lamb with the elbow. Look like he's going to play. Odell, he's questionable. Blake Ferguson is questionable, and Austin Jackson is questionable. It's a long list. Looking at this grocery list compared to the Colts, almost the same length when you look at it side by side. There's a lot of these guys are banged up. Um, Moving over to the defensive side for the Colts, I think that's probably the biggest question mark to see um, if they're going to show up this week or not. I mean, everybody talked a big talk this week of how important this game is, and you never want to go 1-1 the whole season because you're just going to end even. So I think with the opportunity ahead of them, like this game right here, especially back at home after that crazy road trip, the schedule's been back and forth with them. Um, but to be back home with Anthony Richardson, I know that crowd's going to be loud. I think this is a good chance to start your winning streak, especially after a road win against the division, in the division game against the Titans. This would be a good week for them to step up. And the defense, they have a big task ahead of them. Of course, when you look at the Dolphins and their record and their QB play, you're gonna look under the rug and say, okay, the defense could step up, but they still have one of the fastest rosters in the NFL, and then they got their star running back coming back. So you can't take this team lightly. You still got to go out there and hit them in the mouth. But what's your thoughts about the defense against the Dolphins offense this week?
Yeah, well, like you said, I mean, like even with the quarterback situation, this team has a ton of speed, right? And they're really dangerous. They're one of those teams that they thrive in yards after catch opportunities. They can take a very small gain and they can take it to the house at any moment in time. Luckily, this Colts defense, like I said, it's Miami runs a like very similar scheme to the Shanahan scheme, right? The San Francisco thing. Very similar to what Houston does with Bobby Slowick, very similar to what Green Bay did, with Matt LaFleur. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of, trickery and run games and like, end arounds with wide receivers and basically trying to get these playmakers the ball. So really like what you're looking at is very similar to the Houston and the Green Bay games where, you know, during the game, I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about the defensive performance in those games and in the run game and the way the run game um, for those teams worked. But really, that was only in the first half. So, like I said, you throw away everything that actually happened on the field. None of that matters. The bad stuff, none of it matters. You look at the good stuff. That's the only thing that really matters, right? And in the second half of the Green Bay and the Houston games, they did a very good job of stopping the run. Um, and they held both those teams to very minimal points. Like the Green Bay game, everybody talks about it like it's some huge defensive failure and they ran all over them. And really, like, I think, just ignoring the context and the stuff that actually matters, they only held Green Bay to 16 points. And hey, anytime you can hold a team in the NFL to 16 points, I believe the Colts defense is like 15th or 16th in the league in points allowed. They're 21st in EPA. So all this talk about like, they're the 32nd ranked defense and, all this stuff. None of that really matters because the charts show a completely different story. And that's what we're paying attention to. Right. So I think they're going to utilize the run game, but luckily the Colts in the second half of those games have been very good at stopping the run. That's something they've succeeded at. The tackling issues, especially with like the linebackers and stuff like that, they only missed 3 tackles last week. Only missed 3 tackles. So 14 tackles missed the week before. They only missed 3 last week. So you have to assume that issue is completely shored up as well. So that's going to be good to go. I think as long as they can tackle, and I think as long as they can stop the run like they did in those Houston's and Green Bay games, then you're basically combining that with, like I said, with the offense, where you're getting off to these fast starts. You're allowing or basically forcing Miami to throw the football. And that's where you want to be. You want them to throw the football. You want to put the ball in the quarterback's hands. And this secondary has been really unbelievable throughout the season. Like just ignoring all the yards given up. The PFF grades on Jalen Jones and Sam Womack have been phenomenal. And those are 2 guys that are up and coming. I think Sam Womack has been incredible. Getting Kenny Moore back was such a huge boost last week against Tennessee. They completely shut down Will Levis. They held him to under 100 yards. This Miami offense, I think, is actually surprisingly been worse than Tennessee's offense since Tua went down. I think they're only averaging like anywhere. It's either 10 or 12 points per game since Tua went down. So this is a prime week, just like I said, for the offense. This is a prime week whenever you have this Colts roster who one of the 10 to 12 best rosters in football right now. They're very great roster. Um, this is a great chance for them to finally play that complete game and really make their mark and just completely blow the doors open with this Miami game.
I agree. You said three. I must didn't know what a missed tackle is. But I agree, 100%. And another thing that comes up with this defense against the Miami offense, and one of the best success things for this secondary is the pass rush. Of course, the pass rush has been up and down this year. But again, against this offense, this could be the game that we're expecting from Latu to go out there and perform. Of course, I mean, no Grover Stewart. DeForest Buckner is not there. Grover might play. But Cody Pace available. This could be the game for this defense that I should be like, all right, they try to get some type of momentum or some composure to to make the secondary to hide the secondary's problems. I would say, of course, I'm rooting for Julian Blackman to go out there and get an interception this week, especially at home.
Yeah,
But
he almost had two last week. He did get one. He almost had two.
yeah, he almost had two. The ball was right in his hands for the first one. He
I
just dropped
know.
it, but he
Yeah.
did catch the other one. But this could be a week for him to catch another pick, especially with the quarterback situation. But just give me your thoughts on how do you think the defensive line may perform this week?
Well, I think really like obviously DeForest Buckner has been like a massive loss, right? I think everybody knows that. But I really think we have to give Chris Ballard credit for the depth that he's put together with guys like Taven Bryan, guys like Adam Gotsis, who had a really good week last week. Um, these guys have come in and stepped in and they've performed very well in their roles. Obviously, like I said, when you're looking at the points per game given up, the Colts aren't really giving up a ton of points. They're right there in the middle of the league. So the defense technically it's not a bad defense. It's actually a good defense. So you it's almost like this give and take, right? Where the defense is like playing off coverage and they're okay allowing, these little check down easy completions and game tackling, right? Like getting to the ball carrier, getting him down, not allowing the explosives. And that's really what the defense is based on. But when you do that and you give up these quick, easy completions, you're basically neutralizing your pass rush. And even with that, the Colts, I believe, are top 7 in pressure percentage in the NFL. Latu is, one of the top 20 edge rushers in pressure percentage, like win rate and all that stuff. So he's getting to the ball or he's getting the pressure. It's just these quarterbacks have been getting the ball out very quickly and teams are running the ball a lot, even though the Colts are stopping the run. Like I said, you just ignore where they're not, focus on where they are stopping the run. And that's really what matters. And they're stopping the run. And I mean, it's right there. Like they're so close to just all this stuff averaging out. It's really just comes down to luck, right? Like I mean, they've just been really unlucky with getting these sacks to where they've just been so close and they're creating pressure, but the ball's just getting out. So I think um with Miami and specifically like the quarterbacks that they've been rolling out there without Tua, these are guys that notably like they kind of hold on to the ball. They're more playmakers. They're trying to run around and create plays. So I think you do have guys that if they're going to hold on to that ball and not get it out quickly, probably going to finish and they're probably going to start seeing their sack numbers climb up. Because like I said, it's almost been really weird with this defensive line to where they're getting pressures, right? But they're just not getting sacks. And so eventually that has to change. Like you can't just keep having this bad luck. And that's really what it is. It's just bad luck. Um, and they're going to start converting these into sacks. So I think if they can force the quarterback to throw the football, they're going to want to hold on to it. They're going to want to make plays. Um, there's a reason why these guys aren't really starters in the league. And maybe you see that sack number rise a little bit this week. So yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm glad like the defensive line, as many injuries as they've had, it's like crazy, right? Like I mean, it's crazy. Um, the fact that they've kind of withheld, this season, they're still getting pressures, they're still stopping the run. Um, they're still performing at a really high level, then I think that's credit, right, to the way this roster was built. So, yeah, I'm excited to see this defensive line this week.
Absolutely, man. Let's finish our meals this week. Let's finish our meals. Um, for the explosive offense, Anthony Richardson. I mean, Joe Flacco. He tried his best. Father Time's catching up with him on that deep ball. But now that Anthony Richardson's back, we know he's going to try to find somebody down the field. Josh Downs is probably one of the best receivers to be out there for him. That's his go-to guy,
He's been
I'm
one of the
sure.
best
Alec
receivers in
Pierce.
football, really. Like, I mean, it's crazy when you look at, like I said, when you look at like the grades and even just like the tape and stuff like that, like what Josh Downs is doing, man, like it can't be understated. Like he's been phenomenal since he's been back. And like Richardson and him, really outside of that Pittsburgh game, like they haven't really had a chance to play together that much this season. So I think having both of those guys back, um, because now you do have to worry about those shorter routes and Josh Downs getting open underneath and yeah, and those are guys like they do have a rapport. They came into the league together. We saw it last year, you know, so yeah, I'm excited to see like the full iteration of like what Josh Downs looks like with Anthony Richardson, and then if they're going to give Josh Downs these easy completions and they're going to do their best to take away these explosive plays to Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. and stuff. Um, how Richardson takes advantage, not only just with like Josh Downs, but also, like I said, in the run game, in the quarterback run game. And I think like it's set up for an explosive week of football.
Absolutely. And with it just sets up opportunities for other guys as well, like a AD Mitchell. We know we were waiting for an AD Mitchell breakout game any moment. Of course, Josh Downs has got one of the best hands in the NFL, especially per next gen stats. Look it up; he's there. Um, but it can set up the opportunity for other guys like AD Mitchell of the world. Um, or maybe even the tight end room can get available just due to the success rate of the connection with Anthony Richardson and Josh Downs. But the opportunity is there for everybody. Like I said, the offense it's explosive, and it scores at a fast pace when it's actually moving, like it does in the first half. It has the potential to do so. I just think we got to find that perfect balance between the run game and the pass game. But with Richardson coming back, I would love for them to just air it out, honestly, especially against this defense. Would you want a more balanced game between the run and the pass game, or would you like, because we need Anthony Richardson to still develop, because if you want him to be the guy, he still has to go through the motions of reading the defenses and things like that, and trying to find the perfect placements of the football. So with a game like this and next up, the opportunity is there for him to develop for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like in the perfect world, yeah, you do want balance, right? But and I think you could see balance in like a way of like Shane Steichen's philosophy, like what he says about, we throw to score and then we run to win. So I think maybe in the first half you do see more of those explosive throws and them really trying to fast track that development like they have all year by like letting him throw the ball a bunch. And if he hits, if they get up 17, points or 21-0 or something like that, then maybe you do see a more conservative approach where they do try to get the run game going and run out the clock. And then at the end of the game, it looks a little bit more 50-50 than what it truly was. But really, like balance at the end of the day, you just kind of throw it out, right? Like the main objective is to score points. And I think with Richardson, you throw points by airing the ball out, like you said, and really trying to hit these explosive plays, and they can pile up in a hurry. Like explosives are like one of the single biggest like indicators of winning in the National Football League. And like I said, the Colts are top 3 in explosive plays when Richardson's out there. And whenever you look at the easiest way, or maybe not like the easiest way, but like the quickest way to score points, man, like they hit on two or three of these bombs, or two or three of these, explosive runs because of what Richardson's opening up in the running game. Tyler Goodson takes one to the house. Alec Pierce has a deep bomb. Josh Downs gets open with some yards after catch, and this turns into an explosive, and you can, score some points off of that. Then I think really like that's how you want to attack, right? Like you want to hit these explosives and you want to score touchdowns quick. And you want to put the pressure on Miami to say, like, hey, we're not going to be able to run the football and do all this, motion and these orbits and end arounds with Tyreek Hill. Like, hey, we've got to score quick and we're going to have to drop back and pass. And then that's where, the secondary and this pass rush can really take advantage on defense.
There's a thought in my head that when you were talking about Richardson, if he does happen to have any success rate, what's next for Joe Flacco? Of course, Joe Flacco's been having himself a pretty decent season. But you, I feel like his value could be somewhere for another team to actually like pick him up for like a Stephon Gilmore sake. Remember, Stephon Gilmore balled out, and we wound up going for him in trade. Um, but what's the view of the backup quarterback situation if Richardson decides to have like any type of success moving forward before the trade deadline? Like, do you keep Flacco on the bench, or would you try to like ship him off for maybe some type of availability, maybe draft picks or a player?
Well, I mean, like, unfortunately, like Anthony Richardson has kind of shown like he has a lot of bad luck when it comes to injuries. It's not necessarily that he's injury prone. I mean, he's dealt with like the big injury in high school, like a senior year, and then he's dealt with the injuries in college a little bit. And then whenever he got to the NFL, obviously he's dealt with a few unlucky injuries. So just judging off of that history, the backup quarterback spot is like extremely vital on this team. And you have a guy that has shown he can come in and he can win you games in that spot. So I I don't think it would be like in the best interest of this team moving forward to like really trade Joe Flacco this year because at any moment in time, Anthony Richardson can go down again. Like if he just has, another bad luck injury where he just takes a bad shot and yeah, and he misses any time. I mean, like that's crucial for this team. So no, I don't think you trade Joe Flacco. And really, I think like even just moving forward, even if Anthony Richardson doesn't miss a single game the rest of this year, like Joe Flacco's on a 1 year deal. I think the backup quarterback position, whenever you have a running quarterback, and this isn't just necessarily just Anthony Richardson, this is any running quarterback. So, I mean, we've seen Lamar Jackson miss time. We've seen Justin Fields kind of struggle. We've seen these running quarterbacks, miss games. Mike Vick, missed numerous games due to injury. Not even with the legal stuff, just injury. So anytime you have a quarterback that kind of absorbs shots, regardless if they're staying healthy or not, um, the backup quarterback position just kind of gets amplified, and it's such a crucial position to have. So if you have a guy at that backup quarterback spot that can come in, play well, and win you games, then no, I don't think you move off of that. You got to hold.
I agree. I agree. It was just a thought I was thinking about, like with value going up. Is like,
No, I
man,
mean, like, I mean, like, it depends on like what value is, right? Like, if somebody calls Chris Ballard and they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a first round pick for Joe Flacco this year," like, yeah, you're probably trading it, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of silly not to, but no team's doing that. Especially like I said, he's going to be 40 years old in January. Like, no team's really giving up assets for half a season of Joe Flacco. Like, you're not trading picks for that guy. So that's just my view.
yeah, that's true. Thank you. I'm not thinking about that anymore. It's a good idea. Um, the run game, we mentioned Tyler Goodson. Another thing I would talk about with Richardson, the last time he played this year, Trey Sermon found the end zone. That was the whole tush push thing, air quote. Um, like I said, the Anthony, I don't think a lot of fans understand how much of a scheme that Anthony Richardson changes on defenses because they don't know what he's going to do next. Like the option plays, all of that. I feel like Anthony Richardson just puts that much pressure on other defenses to try to disguise what he's going to do next. And I really do think the run game can have a huge game without Jonathan Taylor. But like I said, Trey Sermon hit the end zone when Richardson was available last time. But just the ability for him to do multiple things. Like I said, Colts fans has never seen this before. Um, just give me your thoughts of how dynamic Richardson truly is. Because, of course, fans pretty much trash him every other week when Flacco's going out there and ball and talk about Flacco should be the starter. You've seen it all the time. They talk about just keep Flacco in. But just explain how different Richardson is because how talented he can be. I mean, he changes the defense's mindsets when he's on the field.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just, fans are gonna fan, and, that is what it is. Like, I mean, it's they don't really understand the true nature, of that kinda stuff, and really, I mean, it's they've grown accustomed to a lot of pocket passers like Peyton Manning and like Andrew Luck. These are guys that win from the pocket. And I think Richardson can win from the pocket. It's just going to take some time. But as far as what he gives you when defenses attack, I mean, it's like, the whole, like what they call like the +1 quarterback, where and normally whenever you have a pocket passing quarterback, the defense has 11, um, and they only have to worry about 10 on the offensive side of the ball. Well, now it's 11 on 11. And what that does is, I mean, it freezes these linebackers and these defensive ends, like the way they set the edge. Like it basically just turns everything into a guessing game, right? To where they're going to have to guess if Tyler Goodson or Trey Sermon have the ball, or they're going to have to guess if Anthony Richardson has the ball. And then if Richardson does have the ball and he keeps it, and they rush him to try to get him on the ground, then they have to worry about the spot that they're vacating getting thrown into, because it opens up that whole spot in the middle of the field or on the edge of the field that they have to worry about a pass being completed into. So it basically just turns this defense to where, you hear all the time, like, you don't want your defenses to think, right? You just want them to play fast and go attack the ball. But when you have a quarterback like that, it makes the defense think. You're always thinking because you have to. And what you're betting on as an offense and what you're betting on with the quarterback is at least a few times during the game, they're going to guess wrong. And whenever they guess wrong, they can make you pay for it in a big, big way, whether it's an explosive pass, an explosive run, regardless, like because that space is so much more vacated. And even when it comes to like rushing the passer, like defenses, like, they're not able to take these huge like edges and like set this edge and stuff like that, because if they don't maintain gap discipline, then that quarterback can just take off right through that gap, and then you're getting gassed for a big play. So that's why you see Anthony Richardson and like the offensive line, like they don't give up a lot of sacks when Richardson's on the field, because defenses have to stay so disciplined in their rushing, game. And we kind of saw this with the Colts defense versus Justin Fields, um, where it seemed like Latu was just right there so many times, but without that gap discipline, Justin Fields kind of took off, and he really made them pay with his legs on those plays. So it's very similar. Anytime you have a quarterback that can run the ball at a high level like that, it puts so much stress on defenses and defensive coordinators and kind of how they're able to attack. And it opens up the entire field. And then you combine the rushing ability with a guy with an arm like Anthony Richardson, who has one of the biggest arms, and he might have the biggest arm in football. Him and Josh Allen probably are come to mind, but yeah, like I said earlier, there's not like a blade of grass that guy can't touch. Even if you're on the 20-yard line. I mean, he can probably throw it to the other 10, right? I mean, it's crazy. So you have to stay so disciplined on defense. And that's one of the reasons why the Colts are so high in explosive play rate with Richardson on the field, is because there's always a few times a game where the defense guesses wrong. And there's really been even a few misses, like the misses to AD Mitchell, and like Alec Pierce has missed a couple, deep balls where they just haven't really been super on target. But if those are on target, then they might even lead the league in explosive plays. And this is already a top 12 offense in football. And so it's extremely dangerous. And Shane Steichen has shown, that whenever he gets into a rhythm, he's one of the best play callers in football. So, yeah, it's a tough task. Tough task.
Another tough task is Cheetah, man. We got Cheetah this week. He is on the opposite side of that football on the offense for the Miami Dolphins. Now, of course, they do not have Tua. They do not have Patrick Mahomes. But if I'm at quarterback and I see Cheetah on a go route, you best believe I'm launching that football down the field. And we know the Gus Bradley scheme. We know what defense is going to run. There'll be some fools to not try to test it out. I mean, what can possibly go wrong? You already have an offense that can't figure it out when you get down there. So you're going to have to sell the ball a few times. But I would say I have the utmost confidence this week in that safety room and Womack or Kenny Moore, whoever's shadowing Tyreek Hill on that side. But it's going to be a huge task. Like I said, you can't take this offense for granted. I mean, they can still air you out at the end of the day, but it's a big risk this week, especially with the scheme that Gus Bradley runs. But if there's no pressure, we could be in for a long week. Okay, what's your thoughts on matching up against Cheetah?
Yeah, well, I mean, like he's a guy that you just kind of hope to limit, right? Like you can't ever, the expression of you can't ever stop him. You just hope to contain him. Like that's pretty much where it is. Like eventually, like he's gonna get his at some point, right? But you just have to hope that it's maybe only once or twice, and it doesn't go for a touchdown. Maybe it's just a long pass. But even if that happens, even if they do air it out and they hit on some of these shots, really, it's just bad luck, right? Like, I mean, it's not actually anything wrong with the defense. It's just luck, and those guys get paid too, right? I mean, Tyreek Hill's one of the best wide receivers in football. I mean, there's a reason why he's one of the best wide receivers in football. Like he's gonna get his at some point. It's just inevitable. So it's not necessarily anything wrong with the defense or Gus Bradley. It's just Tyreek Hill's a great player, and you can't really stop him. So I think, when I say luckily with their quarterback situation, I do think the damage is limited a little bit on what they can do, but it's still very dangerous. I think whenever you're looking at guys like, and we haven't even talked about like Jalen Waddell or those type of guys either. So um, they're so dangerous in yards after a catch that really what you're looking for is, these guys have to tackle at like a high rate. Like I said, luckily in the last game against Tennessee, they only gave, I mean, it seems like that issue is completely fixed moving forward. So I think they're going to be okay. I'm not super worried about this defense anymore like I was at the beginning of the season. Once I did more research and looked into some of the charts and the numbers and stuff like that, it really kind of helped me see that my concern was very misplaced. And like I said, I think if you just throw out the bad stuff that happened, they're actually a good defense. So we're gonna be okay.
Sounds great. I remember vividly being
Yeah.
at that Saints game and watching Tony Brown Jr. get smoked on the same play
Bad
multiple
luck.
times. But the chart didn't show you that, did it?
No, he's fine. He's good. We're good.
Well, he's flipping burgers at the moment, but shout out to Tony Brown Jr. But it is
Yeah,
what it is at the end of the day. I'm
Poor
just
Tony
saying.
Brown Jr., what did he do to you, man?
What do you mean? I was
What did he
there.
do to you?
I was there at the Saints game, and I just seen the ball go down the field, and he was nowhere near. And I'm picturing myself watching Tyreek Hill do the same exact thing in that defensive scheme. Miscommunications is a thing. It's common. It happens,
It was a
especially with
thing.
this Colts defense.
It was a thing. Marcus, they're giving up. They're 15th in the league in points per game. They're not allowing many points.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Fine.
I mean, that's the recent weeks.
And
I mean,
Miami's only averaging like 10 points a game right now?
the game
Like,
didn't happen yet. I mean, it could be one of those wild Sundays where all the bad teams just happen to win and the good teams are left confused. I mean, nobody's going to.
The thing is, there really is no like bad or good teams in football. There's just not. Like, I mean, you have teams that are just like luckier, like it's like with health and stuff like that. Their quarterbacks don't retire 2
Yeah,
weeks
the
before the
Lions
season.
and the Chiefs are very lucky.
Well, I showed you that chart yesterday, bro. Like, if the Colts get healthy, they get DeForest Buckner back. They're literally like on the chart. They're like this far away from the Detroit Lions. Like their offense is around the same place, but their defense is just like a little bit far behind. And I think once the defense gets healthier, namely like Buckner comes back, if they can just improve even just like a little bit, right? Then they're just like the rosters are just as good as like the Lions and the Chiefs and stuff like that. So that's just
Shout out to Ben Johnson.
credit to Chris Ballard, man, for what he's put together.
Yeah, I agree, man. He's up there with the rest of them, man. Very good mindset. Love his idea, his philosophy.
That
It's
far
definitely a
away.
win
That
philosophy.
far
That
away.
far away. We're almost there.
Almost there.
Almost there. We
You
just
guys
got to be
just have to-
patient. Have
yeah,
hope.
I was gonna say you guys just got to be patient, bro. Like you,
Like,
everybody's like so concerned about winning football
I
games,
don't know why.
and dude, just be patient. Like it's about the process, not the results. The process will play out, and the results will come. You guys
We
just got to
like
be
our
patient.
guys. Look where it got us. Shout out to Womack. Great acquisition. And they're
That
showing
was
it every
actually a
week.
great acquisition. Like that,
Yeah.
he's been phenomenal. Like I
Been
mean,
great. I love it. I really do. I hope he stays.
like the debt is so crazy. Like and like not even being like sarcastic or like hyperbolic, like just being honest. Like it has actually been kind of crazy to see like how battle tested this team has been, like due to injuries and stuff like that. And like the fact that, like I said, like I know like the schedule is what it is, and like they might not have had like the toughest schedule in the world, right? But you still got to play who you got to play. And for them to deal with the injuries they did, I mean, starting quarterback, starting running back, I mean, like basically every player on this team at some point has had like an injury designation. It's been crazy. Um, and the fact that like they're still sitting there right around the middle of the league, like they have like a 0 point differential, like they're 3-3, 0 point differential. They're literally right in the average of basically everything. And to do that with basically playing multiple games with like almost all backups is pretty crazy. And it is kind of a credit to Chris Ballard and the job they've done and the coaching staff and stuff. So you just maybe I know we're hitting like a tougher part of the schedule, but getting these guys back healthy and getting DeForest Buckner back and getting Richardson back and eventually getting Jonathan Taylor back, because they said today like they're hoping like they said like JT is like very close, and they're hoping to activate DeForest Buckner. And if they can somehow find a way to win this Miami game, which luckily the charts say that they will, and stuff like that. So if you find a way to win this Miami game, you're looking at going in now to the matchup against Houston again, um, who did a terrible job this offseason signing those free agents. Um, what a mistake that roster's made. But whenever you look at this team having a winning record, and then you're adding Jonathan Taylor and DeForest Buckner to that team, Anthony Richardson getting a little more comfortable, getting him back. Like, I mean, they might actually be set up for like a postseason. Like, they might make the playoff. Like, this might be a playoff team. I think if they can just stop having the bad luck with the injuries. Like, and I'm not even joking. I'm kind of being serious.
Yeah. The opportunity's there. They just got to go out there and win football games, man. It's that simple. They're doing good right now, but when we're
That
fully
doesn't. I
healthy,
mean,
we can be
really,
a
like,
scary
dude,
team.
that doesn't matter. Like, we've heard it like countless times this week. Like, winning football games was not the goal this year. Like, it's all about Anthony Richardson's development. We don't care about winning football games. That's not a thing in the National Football League. It's about Anthony Richardson's development, and it's about the process of team building. And those are the two things that matter. Winning, who cares? So I think as long as Anthony Richardson is developing, um, this team gets healthy, stuff like that. I think moving forward, that's what really matters. And if that all happens and everything works out, then we're good.
All glory. So we will definitely see. It's going to be an interesting one. You guys let us know your score predictions in the comment sections. Who do you think's going to win? Who do you think's going to show up? Who's going to be the breakout player for the week? We got Tyler Goodson up there. We got Richardson up there. Hopefully we can get a Latu sighting, Julian Blackman pick, all of these things. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know your score predictions. Follow us on all platforms. You think of it, you name it, we're there. We appreciate all your continued support. That is Landon. This is Culture Shock. It's been a great week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe, and we will see you guys next time.